It's 4 o'clock. The top stories on 7 News. A major breakthrough in the search for a mini-sub in the Atlantic. Accusations of a police cover-up. Details about the tasering of a 95-year-old woman. And Qantas hit some turbulence. Why it's no longer considered one of the world's best airlines.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good afternoon. We begin with a developing story. There are signs of life in the North Atlantic where 5 people in a submarine went missing during an expedition to explore the wreckage of the Titanic. Live now to US correspondent Tim Lester. Tim, they're running out of oxygen, but authorities have reason to think they are still alive.
Yes, and this is a tantalising but still vague development in the hunt for that missing submersible and the 5 crew aboard in the North Atlantic. The US Coast Guard has confirmed here tonight, US time, that a Canadian P-3 Orion surveillance aircraft, which was part of the search, managed to detect through underwater equipment underwater sounds in the search area. Now, apparently the response to this was to redeploy some of the so-called ROVs, or remote operating vehicles, in the water, trying to search for the submersible. And according to a US memo now reported in American media, they too were able to detect some banging sounds. The US Coast Guard coordinating the effort to find Titan, a 7-metre deep-sea submersible on a 4-kilometre dive from its supply ship Polar Prince to the Titanic's resting place.
Approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes into the scheduled dive, the Polar Prince lost all communication with the Titan.
This, the sub's pilot, on a recent podcast.
What I worry about most are things that will stop me from being able to get to the surface. Overhangs, fish nets, entanglement hazards.
With Stockton Rush, French maritime expert Paul-Henri Nargeolet, he's dived the Titanic dozens of times. British businessman Shahzada Dawood and son Suleiman. Also billionaire British explorer Hamish Harding.
There's no emergency deployed beacons that can tell you where it is. There's no beacon or emergency transmitter on it itself.
The Coast Guard saying if emergency systems brought the minivan-sized sub to the surface, they'll likely find it. If it's crippled underwater, the rescue is far more complicated.
Today, the vessel Deep Energy, a 194-metre pipe-laying vessel, arrived on scene with underwater ROV capability.
Picking up those banging sounds reported here tonight is one thing. Finding the vessel and then recovering the vessel, of course, completely another. But, Anne, there is a glimmer of hope in this search tonight.
All right, Tim, thank you very much. Tim Lester reporting live from the US. There are calls for the police minister to be sacked after it was revealed officers withheld vital information about the taser death of a 95-year-old great-grandmother in a Cooma nursing home. Our state political reporter Amelia Brace has the details.
Well, in the days after this incident, there was criticism about the lack of information and clarity coming from New South Wales Police. It's now been revealed a draft press release did lay out all the details, but it was heavily redacted before being made public, leaving no detail of the victim being armed with a knife or the senior constable discharging his taser, causing Claire Nowland to fall and strike her head.
This actually removed the holding of a steak knife. It removed the tasering of a 95-year-old woman.
The police minister was challenged in question time over the cover-up. Yasmin Catley initially said she wasn't aware of it before returning to the dispatch box to read a statement from the police commissioner.
The minister has additional information.
I have been provided with a statement and I want to read that. Our priority was to ensure family members learned details of the incident directly from police.
But it is beyond belief that it took 36 hours to inform family members that poor Mrs Newland had been tasered.
The opposition says it's inexcusable that Yasmin Catley wasn't across this alleged cover-up, calling for the police minister to resign or be sacked.
Thank you, Amber. We will soon learn the fate of former Premier Gladys Berejiklian, with a long-awaited report by the anti-corruption watchdog ICAC set to be handed down next week. It will also include findings into her ex-partner and disgraced former MP for Wagga Wagga, Daryl Maguire. The former Premier has always denied any wrongdoing. Pat Cummins has led Australia to an historic Ashes win in the series opener in Birmingham this morning. Chasing a record 281 for victory, the skipper's unbeaten 44 included the winning runs in a pressure-packed final session at Edgbaston.
8 wickets down, a stadium and a nation against him, Pat Cummins produces a miracle.
Oh, he's knocked it over the boundary edge, and Australia are home. Ice in his veins, Pat Cummins.
History at Edgbaston, Australia's highest successful run chase in England in more than half a century.
In all the Test match wins you've been a part of, where does that one rank? Is it number one?
Number one, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
When Alex Carey was caught in bowl by Joe Root for 20, the Aussies were 8 down and still 54 runs away from victory. But Cummins and Nathan Lyon rose to the occasion, chasing down the 281-run target in the final session. Ben Stokes' first Ashes win as captain, literally slipping through his fingers.
It was a big question before coming into the series about are we able to still continue with the style of play against, such a good Australian team.
The English press questioning the late day one declaration and Stokes' tactics. He won't be changing anything.
I think it proves that we literally went toe-to-toe throughout the whole game against Australia, and that's what we're going to be concentrating on.
Australia take a 1-0 series lead into next week's clash at Lord's. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
It's going to be a cool summer for Parramatta this year, with a new state-of-the-art aquatic centre on track to open by spring. 2.5 million litres of water have been pumped in. The $88 million centre boasts an Olympic-sized heated swimming pool, a 25-metre outdoor pool and a play area for kids. It'll also include a fitness centre, cafe, spa and function spaces. It was literally freezing in Sydney this morning as many parts of the city and the state copped their coldest weather in more than a decade. There was plenty of snow down south, but also ice and frost in the city and suburbs, and especially in the Blue Mountains, from where Isabel Mullen joins us.
And don't be fooled by the clear blue skies. It was especially cold in the Blue Mountains this morning, 0 degrees. Locals waking up to a very chilly start. Sydney-siders shivered through the coldest June morning in 13 years.
Oh, it's pretty nippy at the moment.
As the Central West woke to a blanket of frost, a cold front sweeping much of the state, clear skies and a high-pressure system, the perfect winter ingredients. Sydney City woke to a balmy 5.2 degrees, dropping to 2.5 at Homebush, 0.5 at Badgerys Creek, minus 1.6 at Campbelltown, under 0 at Penrith, and a lot colder at Richmond.
It's one of the coldest days of the year and you're not wearing sleeves. How are you doing it? I'm Irish.
But spare a thought for Canberra, minus 7.2, minus 5 at Scone, colder at Glen Innes, colder again at Orange, and a crisp minus 10 at Perisher.
Some locations it has been the coldest since 2006, some locations a little bit earlier.
For some it means restocking the warm winter gear.
Well, in the mountains it's really essential because if you've got cold feet, you've got a cold body.
The Weather Bureau is expecting more cold days, but generally the forecast up until September is above average temperatures as we move towards an El Nino event. Anne.
Amber Laidler joins us now with more on the weather. Amber, very cold temperatures and we certainly felt it.
Good afternoon, Anne. Yes, as we just heard, most of Sydney experienced temperatures well below average today, but the apparent temperatures really had some bite. -2 at Richmond, but it actually felt like -5 this morning. 1 degree here at Bankstown, but it felt like -2. -2 at Camden, but it felt like -4. Though spare a thought for those down in Mossvale and the Southern Highlands. Cairns, where the feels-like temperature was -9 after 6:30 this morning. If we take a look across the state, the 4.3 degrees recorded at Newcastle shortly after 7 a.m. was the city's coldest morning in 23 years. Mudgee, Orange and Bathurst also had their coldest mornings in 5 years. As you can see on this map here, -7 at Thredbo, but nearby Perisher Valley recorded -10.1 degrees. That is Australia's lowest June temperature since 2019. Our clear skies, though, may be briefly coming to an end. We do have a large cold front approaching that should start tracking across the state from tomorrow, bringing a few showers to Sydney. We'll have all the details in your 7-day outlook a little bit later, Anne.
See you then, Amber. Thank you. And still to come in Sydney's afternoon news on 7, a $250,000 reward to find a woman who's been missing for 2 decades. An Olympian pleads not guilty to fraud charges, and Australians praised for donating millions to a good cause. You're watching 7's 4 p.m. Sydney News, and this is a view at Katoomba. Right now it's sunny and 8 degrees. A $250,000 reward has been posted for information about the disappearance of an 18-year-old woman 2 decades ago. Police are still looking for Neve May, who was last seen in Jingellic, northeast of Albury, in 2002. She was due to catch a bus to her sister's home in Sydney, but hasn't been seen or heard from since.
This is how we would be marking Neve's 40th birthday. To us, she'll be forever young.
Neve had a backpack with her when she went missing that's also never been found. Olympic swimming champion Neil Brooks and his wife Linda have been ordered to stand trial, accused of business fraud worth millions of dollars. Rosanna Kingston has the story.
A committal hearing for the Olympian began last year, and today an outcome Neil Brooks wasn't expecting. A Brisbane magistrate finding there is enough evidence he defrauded a man of nearly $2 million in 2008, committing Brooks and his wife Linda to stand trial in the district court.
Obviously really disappointed today. Maybe the whole story is supposed to be told because there's so many moving parts to it, and at committal, it was just the tip of the iceberg of what's happened here.
The pair are accused of defrauding business partner Glenn Melchek over a failed plan to sell sports tattoo sleeves called Team Skins. Melchek alleging the couple dishonestly induced him to invest.
He was there, we were there, we know what happened, he knows what happened.
Lawyers for the Brooks argued this morning the couple had no case to answer, but the magistrate found there is evidence sufficient to put both of Mr. and Mrs. Brooks on their trial, and that inconsistencies in the evidence are for the jury to resolve. After being committed to stand trial, both Brookses entered pleas of not guilty. Their lawyers say they'll likely make applications to stay the case in the district court.
We remain optimistic and totally confident in our defence, and like I said, nothing's changed in 15 years for us.
Until their case goes before the district court, Neil and Linda Brooks are allowed to remain on bail and say they'll go back home to Bali.
Ukraine has accused Russia of planting explosives at a nuclear power plant in the country's southeast. Officials claim mines have been placed in the plant's cooling system, which could cause the reactor to overheat if blown up. Zaporizhzhia is currently occupied by Russia and generates a fifth of Ukraine's total electricity. The son of US President Biden, Hunter Biden, is set to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax crimes. He's also expected to admit to illegally possessing a gun while he was a drug user. The criminal inquiry into Hunter Biden has taken 5 years, but he's reached an agreement which means he'll likely avoid jail time. French police have raided the headquarters of the 2024 Paris Olympics Organising Committee. The Financial Prosecutor's Office is investigating suspected corruption. The search is linked to the awarding of contracts, allegations of embezzlement of public funds and favouritism. Controversial influencer Andrew Tate has been ordered to stand trial on charges of rape and human trafficking. The internet personality has been indicted in Romania along with his brother and 2 others. All 4 are under house arrest, accused of involvement in a criminal group. AFL legend Neil Daniher and his family have been overwhelmed after Australians donated $16 million to fight motor neuron disease. Nick McCallum spoke to Neil's daughter Beck.
I'm at the MCG with Beck Danaher. The announcement today of the amount raised by Big Freeze 9, almost 16 million. Given the tough economic times, is that beyond your expectation?
I'm blown away. I honestly am. It makes me quite emotional. We know that it is a really challenging time for everyone out there in Australia. Everyone has been impacted, and to see them still rally behind this cause, to really show that they care about what these people who have been impacted by M&D are going through, and to pitch in where they can. I'm just blown away. I honestly am amazed by the amount that's being raised, and I'm so grateful.
That moment when Neil walked through the Guard of Honour, I was in tears myself. God knows what you and your family were like.
Yeah, it was a really special moment. I still pinch myself that Dad's by my side for these Big Freeze. He's coming up to 10 years of being diagnosed with M&D, told he had 27 months to live, and he's been lucky that he's had a slow progressing version of it. You don't get to see Dad emotional very often, so I know he was really touched by the moment, and the whole crowd got right behind him. I'm never going to forget it.
Abby Delby down the slide and the plunge.
Every time the Big Freeze comes around, I know we're going to make an impact, and one day we won't need another Big Freeze because we've been able to close it off.
Thank you very much, Beck, and of course you're going to be having a baby again soon, so good luck for that. Congratulations on the wonderful toad. Beck Danaher, once again, a magnificent total for the Big Freeze 9.
Thanks very much, Nick. Next in 7's afternoon news, we'll have sport with Mel McLaughlin, including the calm before the Origin storm, how the Blues plan to square the series at Suncorp, and the Swans lock in one of the most important players for another 2 seasons. Plus, King Charles' first race day as king, watching one of his horses compete.
Tonight on 7 News with Mark Ferguson.
Banging sounds heard in the search for a missing sub, confusion over the Voice's role on Australia Day, and Sydney shivers, the cold weather not over yet.
Time for sport now with Mel McLaughlin, and it all goes on the line for the Blues tonight.
It really does, and Brad Fittler needs a series-levelling win tonight to be any chance of hanging on to his job. Live now to Chief League reporter Michelle Bishop in Brisbane. Hello to you, Shell. The Blues know what they're in for.
They know exactly what's coming, and that is a sold-out, hostile Suncorp Stadium and Queenslanders that want to wrap up the series tonight. Look, it's all been pretty routine for the Blues so far. Their casual walk around Brisbane this morning, a few hecklers, but it certainly didn't get in the way of their fun. So much energy, and the competitive juices were certainly flowing. Now, Blues advisor Greg Alexander kept a poker face when we asked him about any late changes, but he was really happy and open to talk about what the Blues are expecting tonight, and it's similar. The brutal exchanges we saw in Game 3 here at Suncorp last year.
That was the most brutal opening of a game I can remember. So, both teams want it desperately. We want to win to keep the series alive. They want to win to wrap up the series here at home in front of their own crowd. So I'm assuming that tonight will be as brutal as it was in Game 3 last year.
Now, the locals here, they're leaving work to rush to get to Suncorp Stadium nice and early, but for the players, they are watching the clock. 2 in particular, Stefano Utuikamanu and Reece Robson, who will be debuting tonight. Very nervous time for them. The Blues, they have to win. They need to keep the series alive. And of course, Brad Fittler needs to keep his job, Mel.
Sure does. All right. Thanks very much, Shell. We'll hear from you again in the 6 o'clock news closer to kick-off. Well, that hostile Origin atmosphere Brisbane is famous for is well and truly building. Case in point, we go live now to Ned Balm at the iconic Caxton Hotel. Ned, that place will be going off tonight, if it's not already.
Oh, hostile for some. I'm feeling right at home. We have plenty of maroon in the house tonight, which means plenty of very, very smart, educated league fans ready to see a massive game decider tonight. Obviously, remember last year, Queensland sealed the deal here in Brisbane, and this place absolutely went off. We can expect more of the same tonight if that happens to be the case. Spoken to a few brave Blues fans. They have come up here. Spoke to a few who are used to doing the long drive home after a loss. Just take a listen to that. Now That is what Blues players and fans can expect tonight. I tell you what, it can be a lonely walk up Caxton after a loss.
Yeah, we've all been there. Outrageous choice of scarf as well. Thanks very much for that, Ned. Well, the Swans have locked away one of their most important players, co-captain Dane Rampy, re-signing until the end of 2025. The 33-year-old Newington College product is one of the club's great success stories.
He went through 4 drafts and wasn't drafted, and went to Melbourne to try and further his career. That didn't work. Came back to Sydney. We picked him up on the rookie draft, put him in on our rookie list, and a local boy, New South Wales boy, and ever since the moment we put him in the team, he's been outstanding.
Yeah, the Swans play West Coast on Saturday afternoon, live on 7 Mate. As we saw earlier, Australia are savouring one of their finest Ashes victories. Captain Paddy Cummins starring in a nail-biting 2-wicket victory at Edgbaston this morning, a 54-run stand with Nathan Lyon getting the Aussies to their 281-run target in the final session, the most fitting of ends to an instant Ashes classic.
Almost the first session of day one, it was 50-50 the whole way along. Like it never felt like it swung too far one way or the other.
It is Australia's biggest winning run chase under Cummins' leadership. The second test at Lords is just a week away. It was also Australia's day at the Wimbledon lead-up tournament at Queen's Club. World number 18 Alex de Minaur thrashed 2-time All England club champion Andy Murray in straight sets.
It's long, and it is all over, and it's Australia's day.
Alexei Popyrin slammed into an advertising board on match point of his loss to fellow Aussie Jordan Thompson, limping from the court with a minor foot injury. Hopefully all is okay. So much going on in England. What about Caxton Street at the moment?
But you're wearing the lucky blue.
Oh, well,
so
fingers crossed.
We'll see. Thank you.
Thanks.
King Charles has made his first appearance at Royal Ascot since becoming monarch. He was accompanied by Queen Camilla, the royal couple arriving in a horse-drawn carriage, as Hugh Whitfeld reports.
His Majesty is now an owner after inheriting 37 of his late mother's racehorses. One of Charles's runners was on the course today, finishing 5th as Charles and Camilla returned to Royal Ascot, arriving by carriage from Windsor Castle, Charles's first race day as king. But it is his wife who is, of course, the true racing fan. Camilla was spotted in the royal box, the Queen a bundle of nerves and emotion. More of a relaxing day perhaps for the Princess of Wales. Once an art history student, Kate indulged her love of art, helping to reopen the refurbished National Portrait Gallery here in London, and had a chat with Sir Paul McCartney. The Beatles' own photography will be on show there very soon. Prince William was playing football, albeit on a table with England's women footballers. As President of England's FA, he was visiting them ahead of their departure for the Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand in a month's time. I guess we now know where his true loyalties lie.
This afternoon's top stories are next, including the sign of hope deep in the North Atlantic Ocean. The flying kangaroo's international reputation runs into turbulence. And the date of Australia Day, a new battleground in the voice debate.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Welcome back. There are positive signs in the search for the 5 people aboard a deep-sea submersible that's disappeared in the North Atlantic. As Naval and Air Force rescue teams from the US and Canada continue a grid search, there are reports of a banging sound every 30 minutes over a period of several hours. Additional sonar devices have now been deployed, along with a ship using specialist technology.
Today, the vessel Deep Energy, a 194-metre pipe-laying vessel, arrived on scene with underwater ROV capability.
Emergency oxygen will last 96 hours. That means there's now less than a day to find and rescue any survivors. Police are being accused of leaving out key details in a public release about the tasering of a 95-year-old woman in Cooma. It's been revealed a draft media release included information about the victim being armed with a knife and the senior constable discharging his taser, causing Claire Nowland to fall and strike her head. That information was removed. There was an outcry in State Parliament this afternoon after news of the cover-up. A man has gone on trial in Brazil for the murder of his ex-girlfriend in Sydney 5 years ago. Mario Santoro is accused of killing 38-year-old Cecilia Haddad and dumping her body in Sydney Harbour. Ashley Hansen has more.
Well, Sydney detectives have told the federal court in Brazil how Mario Marcelo Santoro tried to cover his tracks after killing his ex-lover Cecilia Haddad in 2018. Santoro was accused of strangling the 38-year-old before dumping her body in Sydney Harbour and then fleeing home to Brazil. The court heard Cecilia was living in fear after ending their relationship. Officers presented forensic evidence, including mobile phone data and Santoro's shoes found near the water. Her devastated family attended the trial, which finally got underway after waiting 5 long years for justice. Outside and inside the courtroom, Cecilia's family wanted her to be the focus. Seats were lined with images of her beaming smile, making it impossible for Santoro to avoid her memory. He showed little emotion throughout the hearing. It's understood he won't be called to give evidence, and he's exercising his right to silence.
I was informed about information about Santoro approaching Cecilia in the basement of her apartment.
Santoro, do you have something to say for yourself? For your defense?
Did you kill Cecilia?
Something about Cecilia, do you want to apologize? Apologize to her family? No emotions?
Cecilia's friends from Australia have given emotional accounts about how she feared for her life in the days and weeks before her murder. Day one wrapped up around 11 p.m. local time in Rio de Janeiro and will resume tomorrow morning. Cecilia's family had praised Australian police for returning to Brazil to help them get justice.
New laws are being introduced to protect retail workers. It'll be a crime to assault, throw a missile at, stalk, harass or intimidate them. 85% of retail workers have been abused or assaulted on the job. Now offenders will face penalties of up to 11 years in prison.
I don't think normal people would ever do something like this, but there are rogues in our community and we want to clamp down on it.
The Attorney-General has introduced the changes and the opposition is set to support it. The Indigenous Affairs Minister has hit back at claims that the Voice to Parliament will give advice on changing the date of Australia Day. Let's go live to political reporter Jennifer Beshwadi in Canberra. Jen, the Coalition is demanding answers about what the Voice would be able to do.
Yes, good afternoon, Anne. Well, some constitutional law experts believe that the Voice body will be able to make representations to the government on the date of Australia Day because it's a matter that affects First Nations people. But the Indigenous Australians Minister Linda Burney rejects that the date will change, telling the Parliament that they'll only focus on matters that help improve the lives of Indigenous Australians like health and education. And she was backed by the Prime Minister.
Would the Voice have the power to advise the government to abolish Australia Day?
The Voice will not be bothered by culture wars. It will focus on the practical differences in terms of closing the gap.
Australians value fairness above politics. Australians value solutions above games. And Australians have the sense to look past the fear-mongering of some.
Indigenous leaders against the referendum say this proves that the Voice doesn't have much power. Anne?
Jen Beshwadi in Canberra. Thank you, Jen. New South Wales is considering fitting seatbelts onto more buses and coaches in the wake of the Hunter Valley crash that killed 10 people. The state government has asked the bus industry to investigate safety management, seatbelt use and whether changes are needed. A task force is expected to deliver initial findings by the end of next month. Qantas may well be the flying kangaroo, but it's been laid low by the latest list of the world top 20 airlines. The annual survey has seen our national carrier bumped from number 5 to number 17. Chris Marr has been finding out why and what Qantas is doing about it.
Well, in what's known as the Oscars for the performance of international airlines, it's been a bad day for Qantas, plummeting down the ranks and no longer the top carrier in the Asia Pacific. Qantas has plunged 12 positions in rankings put out by Skytrax. The Flying Kangaroo was 5th. It's now 17th of world carriers. Now, the same ratings has put the minor carrier Fiji Airways in front of Qantas as the top airline in Australia and the Pacific. Qantas today, in a statement, says the result is based on surveys conducted 9 months ago. During cancellations and lost baggage issues, Qantas says it's confident those issues are in the past and its performance has been restored. That's a view shared by aviation commentators today.
And I can tell you Qantas's service is top-notch still. The capacity's there, the planes there, beautiful new product on board. Very, very surprising.
Skytrax has placed Singapore Airlines in top position of international carriers, followed by the previous winner, Qatar. Aviation and travel commentators say these awards tend to favour airlines who fly a lot to Europe, and that disadvantages Qantas.
Thanks, Chris. It's proving to be a golden era for Taylor Swift Sydney fans. The pop superstar is bringing her global tour here, and it's already proving to be the hottest ticket in town. But as Paul Caddick reports, once tickets do go on sale, they won't come cheaply.
Good afternoon. It's the news that's had Taylor Swift fans buzzing all day. Confirmation the megastar is returning to Australia for the first time since 2018 for the Eras Tour. Posting this morning to her 260 million followers that in February next year, after 2 shows at the MCG in Melbourne, she'll be doing 3 at Sydney Olympic Park's Accor Stadium on the 23rd, 24th and 25th. Reaction from her fans online and also at a special high tea event in Melbourne.
Are you excited about the concert coming next year? Are you excited?
And the Swifties are already stressing about tickets.
5 shows for the whole of Australia is a needle in a haystack.
Ticket prices will be from $380 for up the front to $80 up the back. A top VIP ticket costing $1,200.
I would go into copious amounts of debt for this woman. It's the Eras Tour. It's once in a lifetime.
It's 3.25 hours on stage, 42 songs, multiple costume changes. I mean, you really do get your money's worth.
With fans expected to come from all over Australia and New Zealand.
Get your tickets. What an amazing event it will be when Swifties everywhere will be converging on Sydney. I'd love to go. If I can get a ticket, I'll be there for sure.
Ticketek says it's already had 1 million visits to its website. There are pre-sales happening on Monday and Wednesday, but for the general public, tickets go on sale Friday next week.
We're live to CommSec for the latest on your money next. Plus, Vivid smashes all previous records by a mile. A game-changing new app helping you save money on groceries and earn rewards points. It's 13 degrees in Blacktown. Amber will have our forecast soon.
The interrogation of Matt Shervo-Shervington.
Oh no, I can't believe I did this.
The lie detector grilling. Live.
I'm in for that.
What will be revealed? And Sarah Jessica Parker comes clean on the Sex and the City feud in her only TV interview. Start with Sunrise tomorrow.
This year's Vivid Festival has broken all its previous records, drawing its biggest crowd ever. 2.5 million people turned out last year, but this year almost 3.5 million people braved the cold to catch a glimpse of the glittering displays. Tourism also saw a huge boost, with a surge of patrons at hotels, restaurants and bars. Checking finance now with Laura Bezzarati from CommSec. Laura, it was a disappointing session today.
Good afternoon, Anne. That's exactly right. Unfortunately, the Aussie market fell after 7 straight days of gains. It fell by over 0.5% after hitting its highest levels in 2 months just yesterday. All but one of the sectors declined. Energy and mining stocks were the biggest drags on the market, but consumer staples rose 0.7% and major banks were mixed. Shares in TPG plummeted 5.4% after a deal between Telstra and TPG to share infrastructure infrastructure was knocked back by authorities, costing the company up to $25 million. On the other hand, Telstra shares were up during the session but ended flat, and baby formula company Bubs Australia rose 31% after saying it expects revenue from its US business to be higher than previously forecast due to strong sales. Ahead tonight, all eyes will be on the speech from US Central Bank's boss, looking for hints about what's to come for interest rates. And the Aussie dollar is weaker, buying 67.7 US cents. And
Laura Bezzarati from CommSec. Thank you, Laura. Using a gas stove could be worse for you than being exposed to secondhand smoke. According to a US study from Stanford University, it found that cooking with gas raised indoor levels of benzene, a chemical linked to cancer. High benzene levels were found to linger for 6 hours after the stove was turned off. Sydney 6 p.m. news is coming up with Mike Ferguson. Hi there, Mike. What are you working on in the newsroom?
Yeah, good afternoon, and tonight the very latest on the search for that missing submarine. Banging sounds believed to be coming from the ocean floor. The massive challenge, how to get the crew to safety before their oxygen runs out. Claims of a police cover-up in the tasering death of 95-year-old great-grandmother Claire Nowland. Calls for the police minister to be sacked. More than 1,000 nurses across the state facing the axe because there's no money in the budget. We'll reveal which regions will be hardest hit. Qantas slips down the world airline rankings. It was 5th last year. How far the flying kangaroo has fallen. And what a captain's knock. Pat Cummins leads Australia to a famous Ashes victory at Edgbaston. Why this win means so much to the skipper. And all the wonderful highlights and plenty more tonight at 6.
See you then, Fergo. Thank you. Well, there's no doubt many Aussies are looking to make their money go further. And today, one of the major supermarkets is rolling out a game-changing new app to help us do just that, making sure every dollar counts. Sean White has the details.
When you're feeling the cost of living pinch, the aim is simple. Save as much money as possible. And Coles is partnering with Flybuys to give Aussies more opportunity to do so.
The new app feature is all about making offers easier for customers to find. So when you link your Flybuys account to the Coles app, you'll be able to get your personalised offers at the click of a button. All you need to do is activate them, get into Coles. If you buy those products, you'll be boosting your Flybuys points, which of course equates to Flybuys dollars that you can use at the checkout or in the rewards store.
Well, there's no limit on how many offers you can use across the one shop. And for every 2,000 points you earn, $10 will be taken off your spend. Coles is also running additional deals this week to celebrate the launch.
Coles customers that spend $20 or more on beautiful in-season fresh fruit and vegetables will be able to earn 5 times the Flybuys points on their total shop when they scan their Flybuys card at the checkout.
Well, Flybuys member and mother of 2 Jenny is excited for the integration. She says it will make shopping a lot more seamless.
All the offers will be activated in one place and you don't have to worry about whether you've missed an offer when you're doing your shop. I think I had at the end of the year like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of points to spend either on a Coles shop or buying gift cards or however I wanted to use it.
Jenny has maximised her savings by also shopping at Flybuys partner stores, which include Bunnings, Officeworks and Kmart. They have bonus offers available for members. But you can essentially take advantage of savings and points anywhere. If you're a Coles or Woolies customer, fuel up at select BPs or catch Ubers, then every dollar you spend can be converted into points. And if you travel a lot, credit card bonus offers are always a great way to get a massive injection of flight credits in one go. Sean White, 7 News.
Next in 7's afternoon news, Amber will be here with your very latest weather forecast.
Good afternoon, Andrea Pneumo here in the Freedom Traffic Chopper. There's a breakdown in Beverly Hills for King George's Road westbound approaching Stony Creek Road. That's taking out a lane. Right now in Rhodes, a heavy run for Concord Road southbound with traffic back over the Ryde Bridge all the way to the Top Ryde Shopping Centre. Absolutely everything is on sale at Freedom. Get huge savings store-wide, including sofas, mattresses, furniture and more. Sale on now, only at Freedom.
Maximising tax refunds in a year where every cent counts. The must-do moves before the end of the financial year. 7 News at 6.
It's the end of the line for a classic Aussie lolly. Allen's has announced Fantails will be discontinued. The reason, a major decline in sales and ageing production technology. Invented in Sydney, Fantails have been around for 93 years. Nestle, who now own the brand, say despite the nostalgia, people just aren't buying them as often as they used to. Amber's here with our forecast. Amber, do we have another frosty morning on the way tomorrow?
Well, and it is looking cool, but thankfully not nearly as cold as this morning, though it is shaping up to be a bit of a wet end to the day tomorrow. As you can see on the satellite image, while this high-pressure system has kept skies mostly clear today, we have this large front approaching. It should track across New South Wales tomorrow and into Friday, generating showers for most districts. A ridge of high pressure will return to the northern half of the state in its wake, promoting a return to mostly fine conditions throughout the weekend. But as that front approaches, we are expecting plenty of wet weather across the country's southeast corner tomorrow. Up to 25 millimetres of rain is forecast in Adelaide, with late showers also expected in Melbourne, tops of 13 there. A shower or two in Hobart, with late showers forecast for Canberra, 12 degrees the top. Meanwhile, Brisbane is expecting a partly cloudy 22 degrees, while over in the west, late showers developing in Perth tomorrow, tops of 17. 17 degrees is also the forecast top here in Sydney tomorrow, so it should feel pretty similar to today. A touch warmer overnight, dipping to 7. Cloudy skies are forecast, with showers likely to arrive during the late afternoon and evening, with those showers persisting into early Friday. But we should then enjoy a sunny end to the working week, with clear skies forecast throughout the weekend, reaching 21 degrees across the city on Sunday there. So looking lovely across the weekend at this stage, and just maybe a little bit chilly in the west tomorrow morning again, but we'll have more weather in your full forecast at 6 o'clock.
Thanks a lot, Amber. And that is Sydney's 4 p.m. news for this Wednesday. Mark Ferguson will bring you 7 News at 6. I'm Ann Sanders. Stay with 7 now for the Chase Australia, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus, and with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.